here is the galley copy of the new book, which is just so cool looking. It's beautiful. The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel. And it looks kind of similar style to your last big New York Times bestseller, The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel. Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel will not be available until May, but they can pre-order it today, have it in time for Father's Day.
Yeah.
And tell us what the Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel is about.
Well, getting the galleys is such a nice moment. We open the box, as a family around the dining room table, and you pull them out and you see it and you hold it in your hands after years of working on it. It is a companion book to the Diesel book. Emanuel Nobel has an appearance in the Rudolf Diesel story.
But you don't have to have read Diesel in order to read this book.
It can be out of sequence. And in fact, I haven't said this really. The only people who know this next piece are you and my editor and a few people in archives around the world. But I'm working on a third, which will complete a trilogy of these 3 turn-of-the-century characters. Emanuel Nobel essentially established the Russian oil industry along the Caspian Sea in southern Russia. So by 1900, he and his family had built an oil business larger than Standard Oil. And in World War I, he controlled more oil than anyone else on the planet. So it was this huge prize sitting in southern Russia that Germany, the Brits, the Bolsheviks, the communists, Japan, everybody wanted to get to the Nobel oil because they had essentially developed a whole oil infrastructure that was superior to anything else in the world.
Superior to Rockefeller. That's crazy.
Even to Rockefeller. And yet, for reasons explained in the book, Nobel has been obliterated from history.
Totally.
So this brings him back to life and tells the story.
The only Nobel anybody knows is Alfred Nobel, who started the Nobel Prizes. This is Emanuel Nobel, his nephew, built a totally different, bigger fortune that has been totally forgotten, wiped out. His name is not really known at all in connection with the awards. That's all the Uncle Alfred who did dynamite. That was his business. And it's do you reveal why? But I mean, like
a little. I mean, it has to, of course, the when the communists took over, Stalin and Lenin, they nationalized all these businesses. But everyone, even in that time, even when the Bolsheviks had taken over, everyone thought the communists are going to last about 3 days. And so there's an interesting negotiation between Standard Oil and Rockefeller and Nobel about all these Russian assets of petroleum, what to do with them, because nobody believes Lenin's going to last. And with regard to the prize, though, so Alfred Nobel and the prizes, he was an investor in the oil business of his brothers and nephew, but the prize wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Emanuel either. And there are 2 funny stories about that. When Emanuel's father, Ludwig, dies, Alfred and Ludwig are huge celebrities around the world. And the newspapers in France, where Alfred lives, mistakes who's died. They thought Alfred died. So they print this obituary for Alfred Nobel, calling him, as the inventor of dynamite, this merchant of death, and caused more, killing than anyone in history. And so he reads his own obituary and thinks, holy crap, this can't be how I'm remembered. And so he changes his will to establish the prize and gives, tons of his money away. And of course, all his, after he dies, all the other Nobel people are like, you must be joking. Like the fortune's going to this crazy prize, including the King of Sweden, who pulls out Emanuel aside. And Emanuel's in charge of the estate, basically, for his Uncle Alfred and the prize. And everyone in the family's fighting it. The King of Sweden is like, you don't want to pay attention to these crazy pacifists. This is nonsense. You should take care of your family and put all the money toward that. So Emanuel stands up to the King of Sweden and says, no, we're going to, I'm taking my role as the executor of his will seriously. We're going to have the prize. And so he, at the last second, rescues the prize.
Had it not been for Emanuel Houston. But the funny thing is it's like you think about, Russia, and they've got one huge asset. Well, 2. One is oil, and 2 is their ability to mess with you online, right? Like those are 2 big assets that they have. Those are their 2 primary weapons. There's also the matter of nuclear weapons. But in any event, this is their main source of income, is their petroleum industry. Yeah. And it wasn't theirs, and they didn't invent it. And actually, nobody was doing it at all in Russia until Emanuel Nobel came along and it was like, hey, look at all this stuff. This actually looks quite interesting.
It was when they first bought land in Baku, the Caucasus, in present-day Azerbaijan along the Caspian Sea, people were skimming oil out of puddles. There was no drilling, any wells that were dug by hand with spades. So they come down there with they are chemists and engineers by trade, and so they come down there and they completely turn it around. But this was in the 1870s, in the time of the czars. So the book has these amazing detours through history that include the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and Dostoevsky and
tons
Fabergé.
On Stalin. I learned so much about Joseph Stalin that I did not know. And you personalize his backstory in a way that I didn't know. Like, how did he grow up to be this murderous, crazy dude? Mm-hmm. And now I know. I mean, you actually have a lot of backstory on Stalin. And you see the rise of these 2 men, very, very different in character, but in strength, they were equals for a long, long time. Emanuel Nobel and Joseph Stalin. So you learn a ton about world history, about Russia. Everything that Russia is today is explained in this book. But you don't feel like you're learning. You feel like you're just getting a caper.
Well, yeah, it's written ideally in a very novelistic way. It's a ripping read. I mean, you go through it, but it has these fun detours, but it is a piece of history. And Stalin, as you say, grew up as a neighbor to Nobel in southern Russia. He grew up in Georgia, which is between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. And he actually worked in the oil fields of the Nobels and the Rothschilds, who are another big figure in Russian oil. And so Emanuel Nobel and Joseph Stalin, they're sort of like these counterpoints to each other. And Stalin is looking at these oil capitalists, industrialists with envy and hatred. And, ultimately, the whole book brings this collision is coming.
Yeah, he was looking at Nobel's oil the same way Zoran Mamdani is looking at the billionaires in New York. All right, now, so don't forget, it's called The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel by Douglas Brunt. You can get your pre-order right now. That would help Doug out and yours truly, because I'd love to see the book be a success.
And avoid the mayhem of pub day. Like Diesel sold out. People couldn't get it for like 2 months because Simon & Schuster had to go back and print more copies. If you pre-order it now, it shows up on your doorstep or your bookstore has it. It's all
true.
Easy.
You don't have to wait. And that's happening right now with Charlie's book, where they've already sold out.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait months for his book.
They always underestimate anybody who's conservative or married to a conservative.
Conservative adjacent.
Yeah, they do, because they just assume there's no audience for that, because that's not the world in which these book publishers live. So it's called The Lost Empire of Emanuel Nobel. Get your copy now. Ever read the label on a typical bag of chips? It's often a science experiment of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, and mystery ingredients. Masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food. Masa chips contain just 3 ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Not only do these chips avoid the bad stuff, they also taste delicious too. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash and no bloat. And if you love Masa, then you will love Vandy Crisps. Vandy, which is Masa's sister company, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips too. Ready to give Masa or Vandy a try? Use code MK for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or vandycrisps.com, or simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Masa and Vandy are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick a couple of bags up before they're all gone. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.